Let's talk about Romelu Lukaku. You already know where this is going. One of the most confusing, frustrating and fascinating footballers of the modern era. A guy who could bag 25 goals in a season with what looks like half the effort, but somehow still managed to get criticised more than strikers who couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. So what is the problem with Lukaku? Why has a player with such an insane goal scoring record constantly found himself moving clubs, frustrating fan bases and sparking debate on football Twitter? Right, let's unpack this. And fair warning, this is going to be part rant and part analysis and part therapy session for anyone who's watched this man in action over the years. Firstly, let's get one thing straight. Lukaku's numbers are ridiculous. I mean, if we were to judge footballers purely by their stats, Lukaku would be sitting at the table with some of the greatest strikers of his generation. Look at it, at the time of writing this, he's Belgium's all-time top scorer. Not Hazard, not De Bruyne, Lukaku. The man has goals in the Premier League, Serie A, Ligue 1 and the Belgian Pro League. He's scored at World Cups, Euros, Champions League nights, you name it. There's always been this lingering but. Yeah, Lukaku scores but, and it's that but that has followed him. Okay, another thing. Let's just address the elephant in the room because there's no point dancing around it. The man's first touch. You can't talk about Lukaku without mentioning it. It's the meme, it's the stereotype. Lukaku's first touch has been roasted by pundits, fans and rival supporters for over a decade. There are TikToks, compilations and even vines, you remember that, purely dedicated to his first touch. And is it exaggerated? Sometimes yeah, but also it's not entirely unfair. There are games, too many games, where it genuinely looks like the ball is allergic to him. A simple pass into feet suddenly becomes a pinball machine of chaos. The ball bounces off his shin, his knee, and sometimes even ricochets clean back to the opposition. And in modern football, where tight build-up plays, technical link-ups, and crisp one-touch passing are king, a bad first touch stands out like a clown at a funeral. Now to be fair, this isn't a 24/7 problem. Lukaku has had spells, entire seasons even, where his touch seems fine. Like during his Inter Milan peak under Antonio Conte, suddenly the guy could trap a medicine ball like pure Benzema. But then fast forward a year, and he's at Chelsea miscontrolling 7-yard passes like he's wearing fucking Timberlands. And we all know it. Let's talk about Chelsea now. Because if you really want to understand what was the problem with Lukaku, Stamford Bridge is where the mystery hits its peak. Chelsea paid almost £100 million to bring him back in 2021. And on paper, it was perfect. They needed a striker. He had just come off a monster season with Inter, firing them to a Serie A title. Lukaku was supposed to be the final piece in this puzzle. A big, physical striker who could bully defenders, hold up play and score 20 plus goals a season. Fast forward 6 months and it was an absolute train wreck. Sure, he scored in his debut, looked sharp, got everyone excited, but then the cracks appeared. The goals dried up, his link up with the rest of the team just looked awkward. He was isolated, he wasn't pressing like Tuchel wanted. And then the interview happened. Oh my days. I just want to know who thought it was a good idea. Mid-season, Lukaku goes and tells Sky Sports Italia that he's not happy and he misses Inter, and that he didn't sign up for Tuchel's system. Chelsea fans were outraged. Tuchel was fuming. It was one of the most self-destructive PR moves I've ever seen from a footballer. The thing is, Lukaku wasn't entirely wrong. He genuinely just didn't fit Tuchel's system. Chelsea played with this hyper-intense possession-based setup where the striker needs to press aggressively and also drop in between the lines to connect play. And Lukaku being the more, I suppose, run the channel, hit on the break type of guy, it just didn't mesh. But the way he went about it, man, like no one forced you to do that interview wrong. Now this leads us to a fundamental part of the Lukaku problem. The guy is a system player. Now to be fair, most players are to some degree. Even Messi and Ronaldo function best in systems that maximise their strengths. But with Lukaku, the drop off when he's not in his preferred setup is brutal. At Inter, Conte crafted a masterclass. He paired Lukaku with Lautaro Martinez in a 2-striker system. Lukaku could play with his back to goal when needed, but more importantly, he could drift into the right channel, receive the ball on the move, and bulldoze defenders. They'd hit teams on the counter with devastating speed. It was beautiful chaos. Put Lukaku in that setup and you get 24 goals Serie A season. But him in a lone striker role, expected to be a target man in a slow build-up system like United tried, like Chelsea tried, and suddenly the man looks like he's running in sand. Let's not forget his time at United, another chapter in the Lukaku rollercoaster. When United signed him from Everton, it was a big deal. Mourinho was in charge and he wanted classic number 9, and Lukaku started hot. Goals were flying in, but again, the same issue crept in. His first touch came under fire. His off-the-ball movement was criticised. Fans wanted him to press more, link better, and be more mobile. And to be fair, sometimes he did. But when United's overall system fell apart post-Mourinho, Lukaku's form nosedived too. Ole came in, wanted faster, more fluid attackers, and Lukaku suddenly looked like a square peg in a round hole. And then came that famous summer where he turned up to pre-season looking like Wayne Rooney. Unfortunately, Wayne Rooney 2025 rather than 2010 Wayne Rooney. And then he was eventually sold to Inter. And we all know how that went. A glow up both in fitness and in form. And while we're here talking about fitness, let's talk about Lukaku's weird relationship with fitness. It's another thing that followed him throughout his career. The guy is naturally massive, 6'3" to be exact, and he's built like a fucking local link bus. But football isn't always kind to players with that body type. When he's lean, like he was during peak Inter, he looks unstoppable, fast, agile, powerful. But when he bulks up too much, whether intentionally or not, he loses that yard of pace, that nimbleness, and it really shows. It happened at United, it happened at his return to Chelsea, and honestly, it's probably one of the reasons managers sometimes shy away from him. It's like rolling dice. What version of Lukaku are you going to get this season? Now, here's where things get interesting. Lukaku's struggles aren't just about tactics or fitness or first touches. A huge part of it is mental. Just do me a favour, wait until the video ends and listen to his interviews. Before the Chelsea disaster, before the Inter exit, the guy who has always carried a chip on his shoulder. He grew up poor, grew up being doubted, had to fight for every step of his career, and that fuels him, but also sometimes sabotages him. When things go wrong, Lukaku's head visibly drops. You can see it on the pitch, the body language changes, he starts overthinking, the simple passes become complicated, the runs stop, it becomes a spiral. And that's the double-edged sword with Lukaku. When he's confident, absolute world beater, unplayable against. But when that confidence cracks, even slightly, the whole facade collapses. Now let's talk about his time with Belgium. And somehow, even with one of the most stacked generations of talents that Belgium has ever had, like Hazard, De Bruyne, Courtois, the same old problems pop up. Yeah, Lukaku scored a ton of goals for Belgium, especially against weaker sides in qualifiers. But when the big tournaments rolled around, there were big misses, and at that, painful misses. The 2022 World Cup is the prime example. Belgium needed a goal to stay in the tournament, and Lukaku, who was only about half fit to be fair, had about 4 golden chances in a single game against Croatia. And guess what? He missed them all. Belgium were out. Again, you look at this game and think, this is the Lukaku paradox. On another day, he bags a hat-trick. Instead, he leaves us the villain. If you boil it all down, the problem with Lukaku isn't one single thing. It's this bizarre cocktail of factors. Firstly, he has a skill set that's highly specialised. He thrives in certain systems and falls flat in others. Then his technical inconsistency. Them first touch memes aren't fully unjustified. Thirdly, a fragile relationship with confidence. When the belief fades, his game just, I suppose, unravels. And then his fitness fluctuations. His body type makes maintaining peak athleticism a constant battle. And then lastly, his poor career decisions. That Chelsea interview alone belongs in the football PR Hall of Shame. Also throw in there actually his mismatches with expectations. People want him to be what he isn't. A silky technician, a relentless presser, and a false 9. And here's the kicker. Maybe the problem isn't even Lukaku. Maybe it's the expectations. If you accept Lukaku for what he is, a penalty box monster, a guy who will bag 20 goals a season if the system feeds him right, a destroyer of mid-table defence, then he's actually an insanely valuable asset. It's always when clubs try to mould him into something he's not. That's when the wheels come off. He's not Firmino, he's not Benzema, he's not Haaland either. He's just Lukaku. So how will we remember Lukaku? A flop? Sort of harsh. An underachiever? Maybe. But a misunderstood striker? Absolutely. He's one of those players where the story is always more complicated than the headline. If he retires tomorrow, his CV will say multiple league titles, 300 plus career goals, Belgium's top scorer ever. And it's not bad for a kid from Antwerp who grew up in poverty. But will we also remember them first touch memes, the Chelsea implosion, the World Cup misses? Yeah, we will. So what was the problem with Lukaku? Honestly, it's the same problem a lot of people face in life. Being good, but not always in the way the world wants you to be good. Lukaku's story is a lesson in fit, in expectations, and in the cruel reality that in football, as in life, perception can sometimes matter more than reality. Is that fair? No. But that's football. And that's the end of today's video. That's all I can really say about it. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments.